Hello everyone, this is Aegon of Astora, and welcome back to my casual playthrough of Dark Souls. This is episode 25, and I'm kinda not smart because I just offered the Bed of Chaos soul to the Lord Vessel, expecting there to be a cinematic that I could then use to open the episode with. And as you will have just seen, there is no such cinematic. He just looks essentially the same as when you are kindling a bonfire. So I kind of messed up, because I also didn't even read the description of the soul, which I may have to look up later in the episode today to see what we missed, because I don't believe I read that in the previous episode. But alas, the show must go on. Well, that's strange. What happened there? Yes, as you've just seen, prior to starting to record, and that's another part of the reason why I was so hasty in offering souls up to the Lord Vessel, was I wanted to make sure that the curse of the egg bearer, I guess, or the parasitic egg form, I'm not really sure how this is referred, or how to describe this. I allowed us to be infected, as in a previous episode I suggested that I would, and that at a certain point in the episode you would see me turn into this. So if you're not familiar, I will try to remember to leave a link in the video description. And of course it removes your helmet, and you can no longer equip anything on your head. I will leave a link in the video description to the Wikidot page for this particular ailment, which it would seem is the beginning stages of whatever it is that the egg bearers themselves, and NG in particular, are afflicted with. And there is of course a reason why we've done this, beyond just the novelty of the surprise, but we're going to get to that a little bit later. I believe on the Wikidot page it says that once you reach 100,000, once you reach 100,000 souls, or once you've accumulated 100,000 souls in this form, that the transformation goes a step further. And you'll notice that our kick still works perfectly fine, but when once you reach that, the parasite reaches that evolved state, because I believe it does consume some portion of the souls that you receive. And so once it's able to absorb 100,000 souls, I can't recall whether it's 100,000 souls in absolute terms or 100,000 souls absorbed by the parasite, that, yeah, it
goes to a further state, and you lose your ability to kick. But instead, you have there's a little parasite that comes through the top of your head, and that's that. And so I'm not sure if we will allow it to get that far, but I do think it's a really, really cool mechanic, and one that, is really consistent with the idea of a parasite, in that, and we do have the rusted iron ring, beautiful, in that the parasite, as I understand them at least, I don't really know all that much about them, but, they steal some of your nutrition, I guess. I apologize to anyone out there who's actually familiar with how parasites work, and whom just cringed at my attempt at an explanation, but I'm really, so like I said, I've never done the Siegmeyer of Katarina questline, and so I'm very confused about certain aspects of it. So if you are following along in the comments, following along in the comments, if you wish, at this point in the episode, and, be honest, because it's just for fun, make a comment saying whether or not, there he is, whether or not you think that I will successfully complete this leg of the quest. And I'm going to take out this Chaos Eater here, because, and the egghead is really kind of obscures your vision while you're shooting things with your arrow, or your bow. So maybe leave a victory comment, or just write victory or something in the comment section if you think that I will successfully complete this leg of the quest line, and if on the other hand you think that I will screw it up, which if I had to guess, I would probably go with the screw up part. Leave one in the comments that just a sad face, or something to that effect, or fail, I don't know, whatever you want to do, however you want to convey your prediction, feel free to do it. I did spend a little bit of time prior to recording today. Oh, and by the way, it is Friday the 23rd of October on the date of recording, and I hope you're all having a fantastic day whenever it is you find yourself watching this. That's the second recording in a row where I've forgotten to say that right off the bat, so apologize for that. How do we even get over there, though? But as I was saying, I spent a little bit of time before I started recording today looking at guides on how exactly to complete this leg of Siegmeyer's quest. The first one I looked at was by Darkside, and then the second one by Pistol Pete. Links to both will be in the description. And they are very helpful guides to a certain extent, but this particular part of the questline still seems, in the context of these guides, there doesn't seem to be any sort of authoritative, step-by-step, this is what you do, this is how you save Siegmeyer. Beyond Pistol Pete's very helpful suggestions of quitting and reloading if things seem like they're going awry. So I'm very, very worried about this, but let's give it a shot. So I believe in both cases it was recommended that we take out several of them before we actually speak with Siegmeyer. My concern is that by taking them out, I don't know. Oh, almost shot Siegmeyer right there. And once again, this is, if Siegmeyer dies, that's that. There's no backups here. So what I'm going to do is, rather than taking any of them out, I'm going to try and reduce them all to one shot. So that all Siegmeyer needs to do is hit them once with his Zweihander, and that should be sufficient. He needs to remain above 50% HP. If he goes below 50%, I guess first and foremost, the first possibility is if you kill all of the Chaos Eaters and then speak with him,
then he will just basically say, well, I guess there's really no point in me going on. He gives you I believe he gives you this speckled stone ring, or the speckled stone plate ring, one or the other, which increases your defense against lightning, I believe. And then that's kind of the end of his questline. And we are going to talk a little bit about the significance of his questline, and we're going to relate it back to Solaire's questline, and the whole idea of Solaire and his lost son, relating it back to the previous episode. And then the other possibility is, if he goes below 50% after having taken out the chaos bugs, then virtually the same thing happens, except he dies, and he drops the speckled stone plate ring. The other option, of course, the one that we're hoping for, is that that Siegmeyer remains above 50% HP, and he feels as though he has helped you. He's kind of finally pulled his weight, so to speak. And that, his questline will continue beyond that.
Oh, ho! Excuse me, I was so absorbed in thought I just drifted away. Must be the warmth. Well, what's on your mind? No, don't tell me. Those monsters making life difficult for you? You need not be ashamed. We're all in the same boat. You know, I really have run up quite a debt to you. Perhaps the time has come. Friend, I have an idea. A good one, really. I will rush those dire fiends, and you can slip away in the confusion. Please, friend, I owe you much more than this. By the honor of the Knights of Katarina, allow me to assist you. And now, I go. Don't be slow. Ah! Ah! Come on! Over here, you fiends! Perish, foul creatures! I am Siegmeyer of Katarina, and you shall feel my wrath! But you, didn't you get away? Well, you've saved me, once again. Oh, thank goodness. I'm exhausted. I think I'll have a rest. Oh, don't you worry. The ground below me is my pillow. I'll recover shortly.
We did it! Oh, so much ado about nothing, it turns out. Wow, that is spectacular. Freaking-tacular. I'm very, very pleased. I'm not sure how much more time I want to spend here. It's my understanding that once he's sleeping, he's fine. He'll be protected from the poison somehow. So there is a red Titanite chunk, one or two of them, I believe, somewhere around here. But I'm not sure there's really any point in going after it, because of course, I'm not going to bother, and I actually did not grab the Chaos Ember this time around ever since we made the switch from Aegon the First to Aegon the Second. So I might just warp back, and we will leave this crap hole of a place, Lost Izalith.
I believe for the last time. I don't think we really have anything else left to do here. So, sweet. So my thinking was that we would spend a lot of time discussing Siegmeyer and Solaire, their respective quest lines, and the significance that I see therein. If we had failed that leg of Siegmeyer's quest, but thankfully, of course, we did not fail. So we are going to delay that at least for now, because the other thing that would have come out of that, in addition to that discussion, was going to the Daughter of Chaos bonfire and speaking to Kalon, the Fair Lady, and Engie. But after all that discussion about the and also Kirk as well, after all that discussion about the egg bearer status, I figure we might as well keep going until we hit the transformation point before we do that. So whenever that takes place, that's when we will opt to switch it up in that fashion. Or rather, I should say, have those discussions. Because we do have the Old Witch's Ring, which I took as my starting gift for Aegon II, so as to make that aspect of the game, or that particular questline that I wanted to do, a little bit easier. Because originally my plan was to get my hands on the Sunlight Maggot, and then use that to trade with Snuggly the Crow and get our hands on the Old Witch Ring that way. But that is, at this point, somewhat pointless. Because we also have, or I should say, my original hesitation about that was that we would have to wait until we had completed the Tomb of the Giants before we would embark on that particular journey. Because, you know, I wanted a light source so that it wouldn't be pitch black. But then I thought about it a little bit further and realized, hey, we have the cast light spell, so we really don't need the Sunlight Maggot. So instead, we are just going to proceed onto the Duke's Archives. And there are several reasons for this, one of which is the fact that the next leg of Siegmeyer's questline takes place here, near the entrance to the Crystal Cave, so we're going to deal with that. And while we're waiting for the Channeler to die from poison, because of course he's buffing all of the crystal... I don't recall what those enemies are called. Crystal something or other. Crystal Dreglings, Crystal Hollows, something like that. I figured I would look at my list, because it's been a long time since I've even addressed anything on my list. First thing I have on my list, and it took me a second to realize what the heck this meant, but it just says, tell YouTube partner networks to fuck off. Okay. I've received in the last month or two several messages on YouTube, private messages from, several different YouTube partner networks, and they all have gone to my spam folder. So that's kind of why I haven't really addressed it till now, because I didn't really see them until I actually looked at my spam folder. And several of these messages, they all follow more or less the same script, which says, oh, hey, I stumbled upon your channel, I think it's really great, and, you know, I'd like to talk to you about, you know, making a YouTube partnership, and, you know, I've been watching your videos, and they're really high quality, this and that. And what I find amazing about that, and the reason why I wrote it in my notes in that way, tell YouTube partner networks to fuck off, is that if any of these people had actually watched any of my videos, then they would fucking know that I'm not going to partner with anyone. That this is not about money. As I've said several times, this is about sharing my love of the Souls games with the Souls community in interesting and unique ways, and in bringing my own scholarship to bear on these games, which, up until I started making videos, I felt that was an area that was lacking, that there were critical perspectives on the Souls games out there, to be sure, which preceded my own. But I don't know if there's anyone out there even still who, has the amount of content that I do, which, seeks to engage with the Souls games in that fashion. And, and the fact that it's in that these messages have gone to my spam folder, really, says all that needs to be said in that regard, in the sense that, of course, these people haven't actually been watching my videos, and that it's just a copy and paste message that they send to people who, meet whatever the minimum required metrics are that they're looking for in terms of being able to make money from ad revenue. So, of course, they haven't watched my videos, and so I'm being kind of facetious when I say, I'm telling them to fuck off, because I don't actually believe that these people who are sending me these messages have actually watched my videos. But just in case any of you out there are, I'm sorry, but fuck off. I'm not going to monetize my content. I'm sorry. But really, I'm not sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. And that's going to sound harsh, but yeah. By and large, as I understand it, I really should, now that I'm thinking about it, I really should have been killing all the mimics, because when you kill the mimics, it's on the last mimic where you get the symbol of avarice. But I'm reasonably certain that I've just used Lloyd's Talisman on all the mimics, so whatever. But yeah, I'm sure that they haven't actually been watching any of my videos, but in the off chance that any of you are, I'll say it in a less adversarial way. Please don't ask for me to join your network, because I'm not going to. These videos are not being created so as to kind of catalyze to create another source of income for myself, because I already have a job, don't make much money, but with the limited audience that I have, I wouldn't make any money off of it. Like, I would make pennies, like probably $80 a year or something like that at most. And so, like, what incentive would there be? And the reason there's no incentive for me to do it, but there is incentive for the networks to do it, because of course they would take a significant chunk of what little I make, and so it's in their best interest to reach out to several small channels who, based on the whole idea of YouTube as being a place that, you can become big and famous and amazing, and you can become the next PewDiePie and make millions of dollars. That when people receive these messages, they do, in many cases, I imagine, see dollar signs, and, they think about the whole idea of fame and fortune and, the pursuit of happiness and stuff like that. And so, yeah. No, I'm going to reverse my position once again, and I'm going to say to the partner networks, fuck off. Because really, and, I'm not saying this specifically to the people who have messaged me, because I honestly don't know. Maybe they do genuinely give their partners a good deal. But by and large, it seems to me like most partner networks are there just to prey on people's desire to be bigger and to make money and to be famous. And yeah, but enough about that. That does in some ways relate to what I was going to say about Solaire and about Siegmeyer, but once again, I'm going to save that for now, because we've been in the Duke's archives for like 10 minutes now, and I've not really said anything about it. The guy we just killed, I don't know what his name is. I think it's Crystal Knight or something like that. He is a single spawn enemy. He does not respawn, which suggests that he is in fact a unique individual. That we just killed him, he's gone, he's no longer in the world. For whatever reason, he is, he serves as Seath's bodyguard, I guess. But I don't really see any point to that, in a way, because, as you'll soon see, Seath cannot be killed. I did trade something with Snuggly the Crow. I can't recall what it was. I think it was a Twin Humanity for a rare Ring of Sacrifice. And the reason for that is, first and foremost, that we have 866,000 souls, which we are saving for the completion of Master Logan's questline. And also that of a couple other people as well. But also because there is a small chance, depending on your curse resistance, which, given the fact that we have 19 humanity, I don't think that will happen. But I would suggest that, just to be safe, you use a rare Ring of Sacrifice, so then that way, once you die, because, again, this is a mandatory death, unless you do the Duke skip, which I mentioned earlier on that I was going to try, but after practicing it for something like 45 minutes a couple months ago, I got it once, I think, and yeah, it's just, I'm not going to bother with that. So you can do the Duke skip to avoid the death, but then, you mess up a lot of the quest lines, and I want to make sure, obviously, that I do them all. So, yeah, Rare Ring of Sacrifice, highly, highly recommended for this particular encounter. And yeah, this is the one boss fight in the game where you can actually exit out the fog gate. Presumably because, you walk in there and then, they're expecting the players to be like, oh crap, I can't hurt him, and then run right out. So I always thought that was kind of cool. Rare Ring of Sacrifice shattered. So I'm now just realizing something else, and that is that there was another quest line that I could have actually progressed to the point where it would help us here, but I did not do that. And this is something that, like, a week ago, I sat down and I tried to map out the remaining episodes, tried to figure out what it is that we have left to do, which quest lines we have yet to complete, and tried to create sort of a flowchart that would allow us to complete all the different quest lines without having to do a significant amount of backtracking. But I'm sure there is a way, but I just couldn't figure it out. Locked. And yeah, I should mention, of course, that, yeah, we are seemingly imprisoned. Not seemingly, we are imprisoned. Oh, and I just set the bonfire. Whoops. Sorry, I'm a little bit rusty. And I'm awful at parrying these guys. I don't know about any of you. Let's not walk over there again. But yeah, I'm a little bit rusty. It's been a little while since I played Dark Souls 1, but yeah, Seath killed us and imprisoned us here. The why of that, I can only presume that Seath intends to use us as human subjects for experiments. and we see one of the agents of Seath, the Serpent Men, conveniently resting against the bars of our cell. Also conveniently dropping the Archive Tower cell key. And now for the most annoying sound in the entire game. And these Serpent Men, especially this first one, very strange. Actually, both of them. They both ascend the ladder as though they're going to get help or something. But then when they get up to the top, apparently realizing that the door is locked, they turn around and come right back down. Or they just stand there and stare at us. Okay, they're just gonna hang out up there, that's cool. I'm totally fine with that. So we'll talk about the Pizakas, I believe they're called, in short order. I don't understand these guys, like... Let's just poison them. In fact, let's just poison everyone here, because I really don't like doing this part. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, peace and quiet. Archive Tower Giant Door Key. Actually, I got a second key whose description we haven't read yet, so let's read this one first. Key to the cell of the Duke's Archive Tower. The Archive Tower, once a trove of precious tomes and letters, became a prison after the onset of Seath's madness. The Serpent Men who guard the prison know not the value of what they hide. In the basement of the tower are the writhing mistakes of the terrifying experiments which were conducted there. Key to the giant door leading out from the uppermost floor of the Archive Tower, which now serves as a prison. The key's design resembles not the key of a prison. Indeed, the tower was once no prison at all, but a trove of precious tomes. And one of the crystal hollows, I'm just going to go with that name for now, dropped a crystal straight sword. A fully crystallized straight sword. How such a weapon was created is entirely unknown. Okay, there's no lore there, really. Other than just pointing out that crystal is very strong, but also quite brittle and can't be repaired. I'm sure there is some sort of lore connection that can be drawn there, but nothing that I can think about for now. So, binoculars. There they are. Look at this place. I'm not sure if any of you know, I'm sure many of you, but if you haven't been to an archive, like an actual archive, it's certainly not like this. This is a fantastical depiction of an archive, to be sure. But my first visit to an archive was shortly after an archive in Toronto, at the University of Toronto, to be more precise. And even though, obviously, it wasn't like this, it was after I had played Dark Souls and had gone to the Duke's Archives for the first time. And the vibe in terms of kind of the lighting and the feel, when you're looking not at the prison, of course, but at just the books and, you know, the manuscripts and just, I don't want to say knowledge, because I think that's kind of problematic to look at books as, you know, kind of just knowledge that is received by the reader. The act of reading, in my view, is an active process that the reader creates meaning just as much as the writer. The act of reading is not a passive thing, it's an active thing. But yeah, just all of these potential two-way experiences. Writer and reader, even though the writer is in some cases passive. But yeah, I'm getting totally off track here, but I'm just thinking about how when I first walked into that archive at the University of Toronto, how, yeah, remarkably similar I felt when looking at the text, the archival part of the Duke's Archive, not so much the prison part. And I got a very similar feeling of wonder and possibilities and opportunities while looking at the bookshelves in that archive. And then you look at this place, and at the beginning of that cutscene, this is something that I tend to forget until you see that cutscene again, was that the writhing mistakes, I believe they're called. Yeah, the writhing mistakes of the experiments conducted here. They're imprisoned. You can see the prison wall, or the bars here that opened up at the beginning of the cutscene and let them loose. And that there was something about the gramophone, xylophone, something phone, the alarm sound that was playing, that seemingly drove them to aggression. With two exceptions. And these two exceptions, you can actually hear them crying. And these exceptions are non-aggressive. Absolutely heartbreaking. even if you hit them, they just kind of passively scurry away. They avoid you. And you can kill them and they drop items. I'm not sure if I want to do that, because this is one of those decisions that, to me, is so wonderfully characteristic of the Souls games, where, similar to the one that you face with Anastasia of Astora, you can put them out of their misery, because clearly they are miserable. But that requires, again, doing further violence to these people who have already had violence done to them. And so often the idea of putting someone out of their misery is kind of taken for granted. But they do drop things that have lore. So usually I just leave them, but I guess for the sake of this playthrough, Miracle, Soothing Sunlight. Special miracle granted to the maidens of Guinevere, Princess of the Sun. Restores high HP for self and vicinity. The miracles of Guinevere, the princess cherished by all, grant their blessing to a great many warriors. Miracle, Bountiful Sunlight. The miracles, so they both have virtually identical item descriptions. So these were servants of Guinevere that were captured by Seath, or by the agents of Seath, and I'm not sure if that's something we'll have the time to get into for this particular episode, but it is something we'll discuss. That they were captured by the agents of Seath and subjected to experiments, which transformed them into the things that you just saw. The other Pikazas, can drop humanity, providing yet another clue as to their origins. And this is something about the Souls games that is, to me, really special, beyond the kind of moral dilemma you have about those two Pikazas in particular. Do you kill them and put them out of their misery, or do you refuse to do further violence to these people who have already had so much violence done to them? There's really no simple answer to that. None whatsoever. No matter what you do, it's still kind of morally, I don't want to say morally bankrupt, morally unclear, uncertain, I guess. And the other thing is that the Duke's Archives in general, and Cease storyline in particular, seem to be, at least to me, and something I've talked about a great deal in the context of my Bloodborne Let's Talk Lore playthrough, that it's very much about it's a cautionary tale in many ways about the acquisition of knowledge. At what cost do you want to acquire knowledge, but also for whose benefit? Because that's a very important part of the equation that is so often left out. And I've been grading a lot of papers, and one of the classes I TA for, there's basically a weekly assignment, in-class writing assignment, where they're supposed to analyze some sort of event or some sort of article and give their thoughts on it. And so often, and I know in some cases it's just students who didn't do the reading, and so therefore they're just regurgitating tropes and truisms that they often hear from other places, that yeah, there's this problem with science, but ultimately, with science and technology, but ultimately, progress is good. So therefore, it's worth it. And this is fiction. Yes, Dark Souls is fiction, but there are countless examples in the past and today of human beings being used as instruments, as experimental subjects, in a way that that they didn't provide, or they were incapable of providing, informed consent. So, there's an abuse going on there. And that B, just to what end? In some cases, yeah, a good example that I like to bring up is double-blind trials. Double-blind clinical trials. To a certain extent they work, yes, and to a certain extent they're necessary, sure. But at the same time, there are several examples, so one being when the AIDS epidemic first came to be, whereby in order for a double-blind trial to work, and for those of you unfamiliar with how it works, at the simplest possible level, you have a medication, you split up your subjects, I guess, the people taking the experimental medication, or ostensibly taking the experimental medication, into two groups. The control group and, the group actually taking the medication. And so in order to demonstrate the efficacy of the medication, the group taking the actual medication has to, over a certain percentage, report positive benefits over a certain percentage over the control group. So versus placebo, essentially. And so while there's a whole series of issues with the assumptions that go into that, such as the reliance on statistics for dictating individual treatment, or the treatment of individuals, and in addition to the assumption that people are poor observers of their own bodies and of their own well-being, I won't get into that for now. So all I'll just say is that in the case, for example, of the AIDS epidemic, when a double-blind trial took place, people had to die in order to demonstrate that this experimental treatment was working. And I'll say that again. In order to create these medications to save people, people have to die. And there's no easy solution to any of this, but it's something that is so infrequently talked about. And the alternatives are not much better either. Either you have people, you need people to die, or you rely on proxies. You rely on rats or dogs or whatever the case as a proxy for human physiology. Which, what? What? Again, in some cases it works, and it's more complicated than I'm making it out to be. But rats are not humans. Humans are humans, but even amongst humans, they're not the same. Everyone has different bodies. But I'm, getting all worked up, and I've been ranting long enough, so let's say hello to this gentleman who is wearing a big hat.
Hello again. What a chance meeting this is. Alas, I'm imprisoned once again. I don't suppose you could stage me a getaway. The archives. Such a storehouse of knowledge. So close, but just out of reach. The thought offends me so I could simply die. As a student of the arts, you understand me, yeah? Hello again.
So, even though, if you'll recall in the episode where we went to the to Sense Fortress, even though he was all like, "Oh, don't worry about me, little one, I'll be fine," even though at that point he had gotten himself locked in a cage, once again, there he is, locked in a cage. And it's curious that he would have been placed specifically in that cage, while we were placed in a cage with a bonfire in it. That Master Logan, for whatever, and that's something that the Souls games are brilliant for many reasons, not the least of which is the synthesis between the gameplay mechanics and the story of the game. this is one case where, yeah, it's kind of hard to see where, in fact, the story is there. Or it's kind of, I should rephrase that, it's kind of hard to see how that is not merely a gameplay consideration. Because I guess on the one hand you can experiment with people. And if they're undead humans, you experiment with them, and then when they die, you just start again fresh the next day. You don't need to worry about your experimental subjects, their bodies expiring, I guess. Oh, I hate fighting these guys. But it's worth looking at them. But he wouldn't cooperate, so... but at the same time, Master Logan is undead. Why wouldn't he have been put in the same place? So, I don't know. So this is one example, I think, of gameplay and story not, in fact, being... not, in fact, connecting. And that is... It would seem as though there was a... error on behalf of the the programmers or the environment artists or whatever, that someone, and I can sympathize with this because, excuse me, back when I played Halo, I used to spend a lot of time making maps in the Forge mode for that game. And when I was much younger, I spent a lot of time trying to make maps for Counter-Strike. But unfortunately, I was never especially good at that. But I was pretty good at making maps in Forge mode in Halo 4 and to a lesser extent in Halo 3 and Halo Reach. And this is something that, yeah, you would take an item, move it out of the way because you're doing something else, and then forget about it and just leave it there. So that's what I think happened. I don't think there's any lore on the door in the sky. You could certainly come up with something, and it wouldn't necessarily be invalid, but in my view, that's what's happening there. And so we are high above the city of Anor Londo here. It's hard to make out what's what, because there's a lot of places in Anor Londo we can see, but we can't necessarily go to. But just standing up here, you get a much better idea of how far away we are, in fact, away from the city of the gods. Oh, I hate you guys so much. I really should have equipped Hidden Body here. That would have been the very smart thing to do. But mostly I hate these guys because when I was going for my Dark Soul achievement, one of the things I had to do was get all of the rare, I think it's called Knight's Honor, all of the rare weapons in the game. One of which is the Channeler's Trident, which, if I recall correctly, has something like a 0.5% chance of dropping, even with 410 item discovery. So even with max item discovery, it's still only 1 in 200 chance of getting it. I could be wrong about that drop rate, but I'm reasonably certain that's what it is. Whatever the case, it would be an immaterial difference anyway. It's suffice it to say that it drops very rarely. And I came up with a really efficient way of farming them, but it just took so long. So long. And here we have a very Harry Potter-esque moving stairs. It's kind of a fantastical idea of the archive. But yeah, so in many ways I do think that the Duke's Archive is kind of a cautionary tale. And in a very interesting way. And oh, it looks like we're being invaded. Which kind of sucks. Okay, so maybe we should hurry up then. I was planning on grabbing the items, but we are running short on time now, so... And if we get invaded... So yeah, let's make this quick. Alright, still no invader, and so if we can't... Yeah, let's quit and reload. Really not a lot of use in kindling this bonfire, considering that this is a warpable bonfire, so we could just warp to Firelink and then warp back here, and we would have 20 Estus, but whatever. So this is where Master Logan will set up shop. Oh, it looks like we potentially are being invaded again. So that's where Master Logan will set up shop, either after we free him or after we have defeated Siegmeyer. So I did mention that we'd be speaking about the agents of Siegmeyer. And we will do just that in a moment. I was thinking, where the heck is that other chest? So it looks like whoever is invading us is... there's network problems keeping them from actually being able to do so, but... So let's check out some item descriptions. Key to the giant cell below the Duke's Archive Tower. The giant cell once imprisoned countless maidens, but is now empty, save for a few key persons. They struggle to uphold their sanity as the horde of mistakes writhe at a fearfully close proximity. So the key persons, I imagine, is a reference to the Serpent Men. But I could be wrong about that. Helm of the Channelers, sorcerers that serve Seath the Scaleless. The 6 eyes, arranged in 2 vertical columns, compensate for Seath's lack of sight. The heaviest of protective gear for sorcerers and imbued with magic. Even after the onset of Seath's madness, the Snatchers, as they were often called, ventured to far lands to find suitable human specimens. So yeah, not only are they the agents of Seath, in some way that item description seems to be suggesting that they are also the eyes of Seath. Whether that is metaphorical or literal, I'm not entirely sure. There's a chest on top of one of these. I'm not sure if it's these bookshelves or not, but yeah. So my recording is over 1 hour and 10 minutes right now. But I really do want to go and get Master Logan. So maybe I'll fast forward this segment. So you will note that the two non-hostile Pikazas are no longer here. It's because they were single spawn unique enemies, whereas the rest of them, I assume, just based on how the respawning mechanic works versus regular spawn and single spawn, that they were just, that's just to communicate the extent of the human experimentation that was going on here. That there's just an undifferentiated mass of them, save for those two. And why that is, I guess, what I would argue is probably that those two were the most recent, and that the rest have been here for so long that rather than going hollow, they just kind of, they just become hostile to whatever comes in their way. That the other two still had some semblance, some cognizance, some awareness of what it is that they happened to them. Whereas the others are just so far gone, they've been here for so long that,
Oh, thank you very much. I'm saved. That makes twice. I must be sure to repay you. I will visit the archives. If I discover any new spells, I shall share them with you. Prepare to be impressed by the onward march of sorcery.
Prepare to be impressed by the onward march of sorcery. Replace sorcery with science or technology, or the term that I prefer to use for both or either is technoscience, because so thoroughly intertwined, it really doesn't make all that much sense in most cases to refer to them separately. But yeah, there you go. That appears to be a male corpse model, but it has a Firekeeper soul on it. And if I recall correctly, only women can be Firekeepers. Each Firekeeper is a corporeal manifestation of her bonfire and is a draw for the humanity which is offered to her. So again, her being used there specifically. Her soul is gnawed by infinite humanity and can boost the power of Estus flasks. Okay, so the same generic description there, but yeah. Okay, so before we go, I want to see if we can trigger the egghead transformation. Okay, so it's not stealing souls we get from consumables. Because, yeah, those are the correct values that we get. But let's buy some stuff from Master Logan before we call it an episode. Because it would seem that we need to actually gain the souls by killing people, by killing enemies, in order to trigger the transformation.
Hello there. I was expecting you. This place is truly magnificent, more than expected even. As promised, I shall share the new sorceries with you, and the secret of Seath's immortality. Ah, the secret of Seath's immortality. If you have fought him and were imprisoned, you must know that Seath is a true undead, different from ourselves. His wounds close promptly, and no mortal blow affects him, granting true insulation from death. His wounds close promptly, and no mortal blow affects him, granting true insulation from death. It is an effect of the primordial crystal, a sacred treasure pillaged by Seath when he turned upon the ancient dragons. So only by destroying the primordial crystal can you so much as scratch his hide. And it so happens, the primordial crystal is in the inner garden of these very archives, the Crystal Forest. The tomes stored in these archives are truly magnificent, a great pool of knowledge. the fruits of superior wisdom and an unquenchable desire for the truth. Some would say Seath had an unsound fixation. But his work is a beautiful, invaluable resource. All progress demands sacrifice, and I certainly bear no antipathy for that wonderful, scaleless beast.
All progress demands sacrifice. Again, the pursuit of knowledge. At whose expense and for whose benefit? From a Vinheinian perspective, it would seem doesn't matter, because Vinheim would seem to be a wealthy place where these things don't matter. That morality, whatever. Knowledge is more important.
The tomes stored...
Okay, so we're gonna buy everything that he has. But we'll save the item descriptions for the next episode.
The tomes all... Come again. The knowledge here is limitless. I will absorb it, then share it with you.
Alright, well, we actually have way more souls than we needed, but I guess that's because I already bought the original spells that he had at the Duke's at Firelink Shrine, I should say. But we still need to spend a fair bit of souls on a couple other quest lines, so it's good that we have all these souls on hand. But that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.